So we did some research on you before this interview, and we did a public search and found that you filed for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2004 and a Chapter 13 bankruptcy in 2009. What can you tell us about these and why you filed for bankruptcy?
You know, those were some really difficult times for me and my family. But they have, I think, very good explanations. Do I wish that I hadn't had to go through bankruptcy? Absolutely. I wish I had maybe done some things differently and avoided them. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I've run my own businesses multiple times. And I ran a construction company and a real estate development company from 2001 through 2008 when the market tanked. I trusted some people I shouldn't have trusted, and it was my fault. I should have been watching the books a little bit better. I had a business partner that basically embezzled some money in 2003, and at the latter part of 2003 filed for bankruptcy, and he and his family out of the state, left me holding the bag. And we had some real estate property and developments that I was working to sell and to get taken care of. And the reality is when your cash reserves are gone, it's really hard to do that. I used all of my personal resources, everything that I possibly had, and I held on for about 9 to 10 months. But eventually I just, I sat down with legal advice and talked to my attorney and just said, I don't know how to get out of this issue. And they advised me to do a Chapter 7. It was horrible. It was a very, very tough situation to go through. But I kept on answering people's phone calls, any creditors. I kept on paying people as soon as I got money in, as fast as I could. I did everything I could to make people whole. Not everybody was made whole, but I still feel like I have a moral obligation. If I'm in a position to make people whole, I will. And I think that says a lot about who I am and my character. I just need to get to a point where I can. Then after that, we recovered a little bit in 2005 and 2006 because the market was still really strong at that time. But what a lot of people don't understand is that in 2007 in the construction industry, that's when the financial wheels fell off the vehicle. They just, we all know about the big crash in the fall of 2008. But construction lending, acquisition and development funding dried up completely about June or July of 2007, and I did everything I could possibly do. I sold the spec homes we had and the rental properties that I had, and was fortunate enough to be able to divest a lot of those both assets as well as debt obligations. And I felt very blessed, but from 2006 to 2007, I saw my income went from over $100,000 a year down to about $65,000 in 2007. 2008, it was about $21,000. 2009, it was about $24,000. When you go from making a living, and I hadn't fully recovered from the bankruptcy yet, right? And the tank the bottom fell out of the marketplace, and I was scrambling. I was finishing people's basements by myself. I was painting people's rooms. I was finishing decks, and stairwells. I was pouring concrete pavement. Any job I could possibly find, I was out working. But by about 2009, August of 2009, I couldn't keep up with it. I was getting late on my own mortgage. It just was a tough situation to be in. So I went back to my attorneys and just said, hey, I'm still just fighting tooth and nail. And they advised me to file, but I didn't want to do a Chapter 7 again. I wanted to still have an obligation where I paid something, so we did a Chapter 13. And it made a huge difference. They gave me a 5-year plan, and I had it paid off in 3 years. Things rebounded a little bit in 2009 and a lot in 2010, and I'm now in a totally different place. And do I wish I hadn't had to go through all of that? Absolutely, but it's made me who I am. I'm a Dave Ramsey disciple now, and I am very fiscally conservative. And I operate my home the same way that I function up here in the legislature, that we cut taxes whenever we can, as often as we can, as much as we can, and that we live within our means all the time. And but it was a hard time in my life. It was a hard time in my family's life. But I have turned the corner and did so in 2011, 2012, and I felt inspired to run for office in 2012 and won. And I had this conversation with many delegates in my first race. I didn't do a big old, interview like this where I disclosed it to everybody, but this is part of being, in front of people and giving the full disclosure and letting them know that I don't have anything to hide. I'm here. I'm willing to serve. I think I am really good at it, and I care and have a lot of compassion for people who've also gone through what I've gone through. And yet I've learned some things that will help me never, ever be in that situation again. And I think if we can bring those principles I learned and those lessons I learned to bear in our state legislature, regardless of what happens with the federal government and in our nation, we're going to do all right. It's going to be tough, but you want someone up there that's had to make tough decisions, who's been in that deep, dark hole and clawed their way out of it and knows what it's like, because it's not easy. Because you're having to make decisions between good and better. And sometimes good doesn't get what it needs when you're in that situation. But you keep answering your phone, you keep getting up every day, you keep going to work, and you turn over every stone that you can possibly find to make things whole. So that's who I am, and that's what I'll bring to bear serving in the state Senate.